Dylann Storm Roof spent nearly 10 years on federal death row, his fate sealed by a horrific act of hatred and racism. On June 17, 2015, he walked into Emanuel African Methodist Episcopal Church in Charleston, South Carolina, sat through a Bible study and then opened fire, killing 9 black parishioners as they prayed, hoping to spark a race war. To understand how a young man became this cold-blooded killer, we must rewind to where it all began. Before we dive in, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications for more gripping crime stories. Leave a comment below. Where are you watching from? What's running through your mind as this case unfolds? Your thoughts matter. Dylann Storm Roof was born on April 3, 1994, in Columbia, South Carolina, a city with a mix of middle-class neighborhoods and lingering racial tensions. His parents, Franklin Bennett Roof, a carpenter and construction contractor, and Amelia Amy Cowles, a bartender, provided a seemingly stable middle-class life. But beneath the surface, cracks were forming. His parents' marriage was rocky, marked by divorce when Dylann was young, followed by a brief reconciliation and eventual permanent split. This instability left Dylann shuttling between homes, often feeling like an outsider in his own family. His father remarried, and Dylann's relationship with his stepmother was strained, adding to his sense of disconnection. Growing up, Dylann was described as quiet, almost eerily so. Neighbors recalled him sitting silently on the curb outside his house for hours, moving to another spot when he grew restless. He wasn't the kid who caused a scene, but something about his stillness unnerved those around him. He attended at least 7 schools in 9 years, a sign of his family's instability and his own struggles to fit in. School was a battleground for Dylann. He struggled academically, barely scraping by in his classes at Dreher High School and later White Knoll High School. Teachers noted his disengagement, and by his teens he was dabbling in drugs, marijuana and prescription pills, searching for an escape. There were early signs of trouble. At 15, Dylann had his first run-in with the law, arrested for trespassing after lingering in a restricted area. Later, he was caught with a banned substance at school, leading to more trouble. These weren't just teenage rebellions. They hinted at a growing defiance and disconnection from authority. Friends from his racially integrated schools said he had black acquaintances, but something shifted in his late teens. He began to withdraw, spending hours online, diving into white supremacist forums and absorbing extremist ideologies. His fascination with Confederate symbols and neo-Nazi rhetoric grew, fueled by a warped sense of history and racial resentment. Rumors swirled in Columbia after his crime that a personal event, a supposed assault on someone close to him, may have deepened his hatred, though no evidence ever confirmed this. What was clear was that Dylann's isolation and exposure to toxic ideologies were a dangerous mix. By 21, he was no longer the quiet kid on the curb. He was a young man with a gun, a manifesto, and a chilling plan. How did a boy from a middle-class home, surrounded by opportunity, spiral into such darkness? The answer lies in the choices he made, and the world that shaped him. In the months leading up to June 17, 2015, Dylann Storm Roof, a 21-year-old white supremacist from Columbia, South Carolina, was consumed by a growing obsession with racial hatred. His descent into extremism began years earlier, sparked by the 2012 Trayvon Martin case. Roof claimed in his manifesto that after researching black-on-white crime online, he stumbled upon the Council of Conservative Citizens, a white supremacist group. The website's tales of alleged violence fueled his paranoia and resentment, convincing him that black people were a threat to white society. He wrote, "I have never been the same since that day," revealing how deeply these ideas took root. By early 2015, Roof was not just absorbing hate, he was planning to act on it. Roof's preparations were chillingly deliberate. For 6 months, he researched Emanuel African Methodist Episcopal Church in Charleston, a historic black church founded in 1816, known for its role in civil rights and its significance in the African American community. He chose it for its symbolic power, believing an attack there would send a shockwave. He visited the church at least 3 times to scout it, calling to confirm service times and studying its layout. In spring 2015, his father gave him a .45 caliber Glock pistol for his birthday, a gift Roof would later use to devastating effect. He practiced shooting, even recording videos of himself aiming at targets, preparing for what he saw as a mission. He bought 7 magazines, loading them with 88 rounds, a number tied to white supremacist symbolism, as 88 represents Heil Hitler, H being the 8th letter. He also created a website, The Last Rhodesian, where he posted a 2,000-word manifesto outlining his racist beliefs and posing with Confederate flags and his gun. On June 17, 2015, at 4:44 p.m., just hours before the attack, he updated the site, writing, "At the time of this writing, I am in a great hurry," signaling his final steps toward violence. On the evening of June 17, 2015, at around 8 p.m., Roof arrived at Emanuel AME Church, located at 110 Calhoun Street in downtown Charleston. The church, known as Mother Emanuel, was a beacon of faith and resilience. Its basement fellowship hall, a warm space with round tables, a small altar, and a bulletin board celebrating 2015 Congrats Grads. That night, 12 parishioners gathered for a Bible study led by Reverend Clementa C. Pinckney, a 41-year-old pastor and state senator. The group welcomed Roof, a stranger with sandy brown hair wearing a gray sweatshirt and jeans, offering him a Bible, a handout, and a seat. For nearly 45 minutes, he sat quietly among them, listening as they discussed scripture, their voices filled with prayer and song. Among the group were Cynthia Hurd, 54, a librarian; Susie Jackson, 87, a church matriarch; Ethel Lance, 70, a devoted grandmother; Myra Thompson, 59, who was leading her first Bible study that night; Tywanza Sanders, 26, a young poet; Daniel Simmons, 74, a retired pastor; Sharonda Coleman Singleton, 45, a track coach and minister; DePayne Middleton Doctor, 49, a choir member; and Susie Jackson's nephew, Tywanza Sanders' cousin, as well as 3 others who would survive: Felicia Sanders, her 11-year-old granddaughter, and Polly Shepard. As the group bowed their heads for a final prayer around 9:05 p.m., Roof stood up. The room fell silent except for the click of his Glock. He pulled the trigger, unleashing a hail of bullets. He fired more than 75 times, reloading multiple times, targeting each victim with precision. Tywanza Sanders, the youngest, pleaded, "You don't have to do this." But Roof responded with venom, "You blacks are killing white people on the streets every day and raping white women every day." He shot Tywanza 4 times. Susie Jackson, the oldest, was struck 11 times. Ethel Lance took 7 bullets, Myra Thompson 8, Daniel Simmons 4. Clementa Pinckney, Sharonda Coleman Singleton, DePayne Middleton Doctor, and Cynthia Hurd each fell under a barrage of gunfire. Roof stood over some victims, shooting them again as they lay bleeding on the floor, the room now a scene of chaos with tables overturned and blood pooling on the tiles. Felicia Sanders clutched her granddaughter under a table, whispering to stay still as her son Tywanza and Aunt Susie died beside her. Polly Shepard, hiding under another table, was spared when Roof said, "I'm not going to shoot you because I want you to tell the story." Jennifer Pinckney, the pastor's wife, hid with her 6-year-old daughter in an office, hearing the gunfire through the walls. The attack left 9 dead and 1 other injured, a 10th victim who survived physically but carried scars no one could see. The emotional toll was unimaginable. Families were shattered. Cynthia Hurd's brother Malcolm lost his sister, a woman known for her quiet kindness. Felicia Sanders lost her son Tywanza, whose poetry and dreams were silenced. The church, a sanctuary for generations, became a place of unspeakable grief, its walls echoing with the loss of leaders, teachers, and loved ones. Charleston's tight-knit community reeled, grappling with the hatred that had invaded a sacred space. The nation watched in horror as the victims' stories emerged, each one a pillar of faith and love, gunned down in a place meant for peace. After the massacre, Roof stepped over the bodies and walked out a side door, Glock in hand, into the Charleston night. He had expected police to be waiting, even saving bullets to take his own life, but the street was empty. He got into his black Hyundai Elantra and drove 250 miles north, taking back roads to avoid detection. He avoided using his debit card, knowing it could be tracked, a sign of his calculated mindset even after the carnage. The horrific massacre at Emanuel African Methodist Episcopal Church in Charleston, South Carolina, on June 17, 2015, came to light moments after Dylann Storm Roof fled the scene. At 9:11 p.m., a 911 call from a church member alerted police to the shooting, reporting multiple victims in the church's basement fellowship hall. Charleston police arrived within minutes to a devastating scene. 9 black parishioners dead, their bodies riddled with bullets, and survivors like Felicia Sanders and Polly Shepard recounting a white male gunman who had joined their Bible study before opening fire. The survivors' descriptions, sandy brown hair, slight build, gray sweatshirt, gave police an immediate lead. By 9:30 p.m., authorities issued a BOLO, be on the lookout, alert, including stills from the church's security footage showing Roof exiting with a Glock pistol in hand. The investigation moved swiftly. Police recovered 74 spent .45 caliber shell casings and 8 magazines from the fellowship hall, confirming the use of a Glock Model 41 pistol. Ballistics tests matched the casings to a .45 caliber Glock registered to Roof, purchased with money from his father in April 2015. The gun was found in his car after his arrest, its serial number linking it directly to the crime scene. DNA evidence further sealed the case. Roof's DNA was found on the Glock's grip and trigger, as well as on a magazine recovered at the church. Surveillance footage from a nearby business captured Roof's black Hyundai Elantra entering and leaving the church parking lot, time-stamped between 8:16 p.m. and 9:06 p.m., corroborating the timeline of the attack. A search of Roof's car uncovered a notebook with racist writings, a Confederate flag, and a list of other black churches, suggesting he had planned additional attacks. The breakthrough came the next morning, June 18, 2015, when Debbie Dills, a motorist in Shelby, North Carolina, recognized Roof's car from news alerts. She followed him for 35 minutes, calling police to report his location. At 10:44 a.m., Shelby police stopped Roof's vehicle, 250 miles from Charleston. He surrendered without incident, carrying the Glock and a wallet with his ID, confirming his identity as Dylann Storm Roof. During a 2-hour FBI interview, Roof confessed, admitting he targeted Emanuel AME to start a race war, detailing how he sat through the Bible study for 45 minutes before shooting. His confession was chillingly casual. He even laughed when told 9 people died, admitting he thought the number was lower. Roof's prior criminal history, though minor, strengthened the case. In February 2015, he was arrested at a Columbia mall for possessing Suboxone, a prescription drug, without a prescription, resulting in a misdemeanor charge. A month later, he was arrested for trespassing at the same mall after being banned, showing a pattern of disregard for authority. These incidents, combined with his online activity, painted a picture of a troubled young man spiraling into extremism. Days after his arrest, authorities discovered his website, The Last Rhodesian, posted on June 17, 2015, hours before the shooting. It contained a 2,000-word manifesto outlining his white supremacist beliefs and photos of him posing with Confederate flags and the Glock, further tying him to the crime's motive. But what would Roof say to defend himself? Would he deny the undeniable evidence piling up against him? Dylann Roof offered no alibi to counter the overwhelming evidence. In his FBI confession, he admitted to the shootings, stating, "I had to do it," driven by his belief that black people were a threat to white society. He expressed no remorse, only surprise at the death toll, and claimed he acted alone, radicalized by online forums and his research into black-on-white crime. His defense team, led by David Brooke, didn't dispute his guilt, but attempted to frame him as a suicidal, impressionable loner who didn't grasp the gravity of his actions, hoping to mitigate his punishment. This defense was crippled when Roof rejected any mental health arguments, insisting, "There's nothing wrong with me psychologically." His refusal to allow mental health evidence, despite court-ordered psychiatric exams suggesting social anxiety, schizoid personality, and possible autism spectrum disorders, undermined his team's strategy. Roof faced 33 federal charges, including hate crimes, obstruction of religion, and firearms violations. Prosecutors presented a mountain of evidence: the Glock and shell casings, DNA matches, security footage, and Roof's confession, played in court on December 9, 2016, where he laughed while admitting to the killings. Survivors Felicia Sanders and Polly Shepard testified, their accounts gut-wrenching. Felicia described shielding her granddaughter as her son, Tywanza, died. Polly recounted Roof sparing her to tell the story. Prosecutors also introduced Roof's manifesto and photos, proving his racist intent. The defense called no witnesses, conceding Roof's guilt, but urging jurors to consider his mental state, a plea Roof himself rejected. On December 15, 2016, after 2 hours of deliberation, the jury, 9 whites and 3 blacks, found Roof guilty on all 33 counts. The sentencing phase began January 3, 2017, with Roof representing himself, a rare and risky move. He called no witnesses, presented no evidence, and told jurors, "I still feel like I had to do it," showing no remorse. Prosecutors played recordings of the victims praying and highlighted their lives as teachers, pastors, and community leaders, emphasizing the devastation Roof caused. On January 10, 2017, after 3 hours of deliberation, the jury unanimously recommended the death penalty for 18 counts, including 9 counts of obstruction of religion resulting in death and 9 counts of using a firearm to commit murder. On January 11, 2017, Judge Gergel formally sentenced Roof to death by lethal injection, marking the first death penalty verdict in a federal hate crimes case. After his sentencing on January 11, 2017, Dylann Storm Roof was transferred from the Al Cannon Detention Center in North Charleston, South Carolina, to the United States Penitentiary, USP Terre Haute in Indiana, on April 22, 2017, where he joined the federal death row. USP Terre Haute, a maximum security facility, houses the federal execution chamber and is known for its strict, isolated environment. Death row inmates live in small, single cells with a bed, toilet, and sink, confined for up to 23 hours a day. The prison's gray concrete walls and heavy steel doors create a stark, oppressive atmosphere, designed to control every aspect of an inmate's life. Roof's days were monotonous, spent in solitary confinement with limited access to the outside world. He had access to books, writing materials, and a small radio, but his interactions were minimal, restricted to brief exchanges with guards or occasional visits from family or legal teams. Roof's behavior in prison was marked by defiance and a lack of remorse. In letters to the Associated Press in February 2020, he claimed he was targeted by staff, verbally harassed, and treated disproportionately harsh by guards at Terre Haute. He staged a hunger strike to protest this treatment, alleging guards planted a weapon in his cell, leading to a 6-month punishment. Despite these claims, prison records showed no evidence of systemic mistreatment, and Roof's accusations seemed to reflect his paranoia and resentment. In a chilling journal entry from jail, he wrote, "I do not regret what I did," expressing sympathy only for himself, claiming he was forced to commit the murders and was now suffering the consequences. He maintained contact with white supremacist supporters, sharing his hateful views through letters and showing no shift in his ideology. Videos of family visits revealed a cold demeanor. He laughed at his parents' distress and even threatened his father, underscoring his lack of empathy. A notable incident occurred in August 2016, while Roof was still at Al Cannon Detention Center. Another inmate, Dwayne Stafford, slipped out of an unlocked cell, passed through a steel door, and attacked Roof in the shower, punching him in the face and back. Prison records later confirmed Stafford's cell was mistakenly left unlocked for nearly 11 hours, and Roof chose not to press charges. This assault highlighted the vulnerabilities in his early detention, but did little to change his outlook. Roof's interactions with others remained limited, shaped by his status as a high-profile hate crime offender, which likely made him a target for both inmates and guards wary of his notoriety. Roof pursued multiple appeals, focusing on his competency to stand trial and his decision to represent himself during sentencing. In 2020, his legal team argued he suffered from schizophrenia, autism, and other disorders, claiming he believed white nationalists would free him after a race war. Roof rejected these claims, insisting, "I'm just a sociopath," and refused mental health defenses to protect his image among white supremacists. His appeals were denied by the Fourth Circuit in August 2021 and the Supreme Court in October 2022, exhausting his federal challenges. He showed no interest in religion or redemption, unlike some inmates who turned to faith on death row. His writings and actions suggested he clung to his hateful beliefs, unmoved by the weight of his crimes or the pain he caused. As of September 1st, 2025, Dylann Roof has not been executed and no execution date has been set, but the families of his victims still deeply beat the pain of his actions. Dylann Roof's life on death row reflects a man unchanged by his crimes, clinging to the hatred that drove him to kill 9 innocent people at Mother Emanuel AME Church. His isolation, defiance, and lack of remorse raise questions about the capacity for redemption in someone consumed by ideology. As he awaits an uncertain execution, the families of his victims continue to grapple with grief, some finding solace in forgiveness, others in the pursuit of justice. Did Roof's death sentence serve as a fitting response to his heinous act? Or does it highlight deeper issues in our justice system and society's battle against hate? Leave your thoughts below and hit that subscribe button for more.